Live from the 607 is the ODPH Entertainment Edition, where we're talking movies, comics, TV, and more. Why don't you join in the conversation? Hashtag ODPH, because here we go. And welcome back for another edition of the ODPH Wrestling Recap. I guess that's what we can call the show.
Working title, but sure.
It's a working title because you have requested it, so we're doing it one more time. We had an overwhelming response to our pro wrestling podcast that we did around Wrestlemania time, and we said, hey, numbers were great. You want it? You got it. So we're doing another episode today. I'm your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week is the intern himself, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And joining the panel with a vast knowledge of pro wrestling, folks, give it up for Coach Duffy.
Oh, it's good to be here for a wrestling show, guys. This is a passion of mine.
Absolutely, Coach. We're glad that you can join us for this. Hashtag ODPHEE for this special wrestling podcast. And since the last time we talked, a lot has been going on in the local scene and the national scene. The local scene, Xcite Wrestling, has a show coming Sunday, April 29th at the American Legion Post 80 in Binghamton, New York, live on Twitch TV. We're going to get a little more into that next segment because Jonny Moose from Xcite Wrestling will be calling in to talk about that and, honestly, whatever else is on his mind. So he has an open microphone. We don't know what to expect. Listener discretion is always advised.
It's going to be something.
Yeah, it's going to be something. It's always a fun time when Moose comes on. He dropped a lot of exclusives last time. So who knows what we got coming this time. But getting to the national scene, we came off a, dare I say, great Wrestlemania? Would that be too much to say about the show in general, or what's the thoughts of the room?
That was all right.
I would say a good 2/3 WrestleMania.
Yes.
I have to say that too. I mean, overall, I thought it was one of the better ones in recent years.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Albeit, though, a couple matches really kind of puzzling. I guess the one that really irritated me, but I found it funny. But I the more I kind of look back at it, the more I'm like, you really wasted time, was the Braun Strowman mystery partner versus Cesaro and Sheamus for the Raw Tag Team titles.
Yeah, that's the one that kind of throws me the most out of like the entire card. Like Asuka losing didn't throw me. At first I was confused, but then I justified it later in my head. You know, the AJ Nakamura thing, I'm like, all right, I could see why that wasn't maybe everything we expected it to be. This, out of every match on the card, was the most puzzling to me because you had the build-up to who was going to be Braun Strowman's partner. And if you were reading online and reading potential spoilers, you were reading about all these guys being backstage and possibly cleared, if not cleared, and, oh, it could be this guy, it could be that guy, and then it ends up being Nicholas in the crowd.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to say, and I think the panel's in agreement with me about this, was this probably the bad part of WrestleMania?
I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of the match. I mean, I love Braun right now because he's
he's
so
the best.
over right now and get these hands and all that. I feel like that was such a disservice to the Bar, who has worked so hard with these tag team titles, to then throw them in a match just for the sake of getting them on the card. You know, I mean, against a kid that, you know, really, you know, I guess his dad's a referee, so whatever, you know, that's who they pick. But at the same time, it's like they could have put them in a match with somebody and paired up a team to put them in the ring with that, you know, probably would have been, you know, like the Revival or somebody like that to get a good tag match on there. And instead, you know, you opt for Braun. And then for him to forfeit the titles the next day, it was like,
yeah,
all right, you know, really, what was the point of that? Not only did you just hurt the Bar, who was probably one of the top tag teams you had, for what? Nothing. You know, there's no payoff.
Yeah, and I mean, the way, if I can use this analogy, it was almost like the whole show was a freight train going down the tracks, and then you get to that match, and somebody took a giant metal rod, threw it into the wheels of the freight train, and stopped it cold. Because, like you said, you got no payoff off of it. Honestly, it was a gimmick and something that I would have expected it on Monday night at like 10:15 or something absurd where they know people aren't really going to be watching.
Yeah, I mean, to have, like, that's your tag team titles, you know, and I know that, you know, Vince and them aren't high on the tag team titles as far as, like, them being a main eventer, but, I mean, the Bar works hard, Cesaro's great, you know, even Sheamus in this spot with Cesaro's worked well. You know, obviously Cesaro's definitely found his spot on the roster as a tag team specialist, which is unfortunate because he could be a single star, but, you know, that's the way they book him. for me, my biggest thing was just the John Cena Undertaker spot.
Yeah.
I get why it was booked like that, and I'm cool with it, and I can't wait till next year because it's probably going to end up being a career versus career match, which will be super cool because, I mean, who knows who will win because Cena might be on his way out. And obviously the Undertaker every year is...
we say the same thing every year.
Yeah, every year you think it's the last year. I mean, I went to that Mania last year down in Orlando. We all felt in the crowd like it was the end when he put his hat and everything in the center of the ring. We were all just in awe shock, awe shock of his career being over, trying to take that in. And then for him to come back, I was a little disappointed, but I think... the John Cena match next year in New York City will be huge.
The Undertaker thing last year, it reminded me of, Derek Jeter's last home game at Yankee Stadium where he's standing there by himself in the middle of his, arena, his ring, his what have you, much like Jeter was. Jeter was standing out there on that field by himself. You knew that this is the last time you're going to see him at Yankee Stadium on the field as a player. It felt like the same thing to me for Undertaker. So for him to come back, when you have that kind of picturesque movie-like Hollywood ending, Hollywood ending to a phenomenal, if not one of the best careers a person's ever had in professional wrestling, to then go, oh, hey, he's back.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was just more puzzling. I mean, I wasn't as upset as I was about the tag match because, like you both said, Cesaro and Sheamus have worked their tails off.
Cesaro's an absolute freak in nature.
Oh, he is, and he should be pushed as a singles wrestler. I'm sorry, at this stage, especially where you're doing the roster shakeup, rather. You should have put him on a different show and let Sheamus be on another show. At this stage, because honestly, he's being underutilized in my opinion. And if you're going to make him in this tag team division and then you kind of do this to their title run, I mean, It doesn't make sense, especially because they had so many healthy people backstage that could have came back for a quick debut.
Yeah.
Samoa Joe, Big Cass. If the rumor was they were banking on Rey Mysterio till he got hurt to come back. I mean, if there really was no plan B except to just add a quick humor thing to it, I mean, they could have gone a lot of different routes with it. I just didn't buy it so much. With Cena, though, I think at this stage, he's been doing more acting and he's been kind of straying away to the part-time schedule.
Right.
So for him to come back against The Undertaker, I mean, I found it more puzzling for Taker to come back because especially he had his storybook ending.
Right.
That, he left everything in the center of the ring. He was done. What's the draw for him to come back?
And then to not book it at all and give it any time or anything, just seeing to come out and basically act like a little kid throwing a temper tantrum that he wasn't getting a match. It was just oddly booked. And I mean, I understand that, they wanted to keep it mysterious and build that, the Undertaker was going to come back angry and then spank Cena, and now they've got their rematch. But it was it really was. It was the picture perfect ending. We were all in the crowd in Orlando just being like, that was it. That's this man's career. He has to be done now. There's no way he can come back now.
Right.
My fingers were crossed that it was going to be Biker Taker.
Oh, I was hoping.
I
mean, that was really what I told everybody I would talk to about Mania. I was like, I really hope Biker Taker comes out because that would just be the shining moment to see him come out that way, especially with Kid Rock going in the Hall of Fame. All the signs were there. And then, we just got Taker and some lightning bolts and,
No, I mean, and going back to your point about Cena, it made no sense for him to be coming. I can understand him coming out and cutting the promos he did, oh, why aren't you answering? Yada, yada, yada. But for him to come out and go, oh, I lost this match and, I lost that match. Well, it looks like I'm not going to have a match at WrestleMania. And I know I said it, and I know a couple of our friends said it. You're John Cena. You're tied with Ric Flair for the most championships in history. You can't tell me there's one person in the back that said, yeah, I'll have a match with you at WrestleMania.
Right.
Or would it have made more sense if he wanted to add some prestige to the Andre the Giant Battle Royal?
Yeah.
I mean, that would have made more sense if you really had nothing for him.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. He could have been in a match. It's not like he couldn't have been hey, I'm in the Andre Memorial.
Yeah.
He could have easily been in that. So it was very... I mean, let's just it is what it is. It was obvious that it was going to end up being Taker. It was just a matter of how it was good be Taker.
Yeah. My big issue with that was you had, what was it, a month leading up to Mania where he's coming out there cutting promos of his life, which were all good promos.
Right.
But then just no payoff each week. No payoff, no payoff, no payoff until it's blatantly obvious in the room. Okay, we know Taker's coming back.
Yeah,
announce the darn thing.
And you see that he's doing the workouts and everything, and it was on Twitter that he was working out and everything. So obviously the signs were there that he was coming back. So it's why not promote it? And now they're banking on him working 4 matches this year. that just
Yeah,
really kind of throws off Mania.
I'm still not sold on he's going to come back for that full schedule.
I hope not.
I understand he's going to do the Greatest Royal Rumble card this weekend as we're taping.
They're bringing everybody for that darn
Well,
card.
yeah, so I can understand that, but I don't see him coming back to do that many schedules. I mean, I think his body has taken so much of a toll over the years.
Let's say how many Hell in a Cell matches has he had?
Exactly. He's earned the right. If he doesn't do it, he can just appear at Mania every year, and that could be his one, and that's perfectly fine. To just do it, I mean, I don't know. I just don't buy it.
I'll say that's why it surprised me the one year he and Lesnar had a match at SummerSlam. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Well, I think they wanted to build off the losing of the streak. I mean, that made sense to do it, especially if you're going to do it at the second biggest show of the year, arguably, because you can argue Rumble's
get his
biggest
win back.
He had to get his win back, and then just that match just turned messy.
And I mean, obviously, the world title match too was a little bit of a hiccup too. Or the Universal title, I'm sorry, was a little bit of a hiccup too.
Yeah, I mean that was, but I mean, granted, I thought it was a great idea to have Lesnar retain because usually you don't have that happen at Mania.
Well, I thought what was great though was that Dana White was coming out here, and obviously it was all work that we all were like,
oh, they worked everybody
because Dana White came out on that Fox Sports show and basically said all but. Dana, that, Brock was coming back. So we were all, I mean, as wrestling fans, probably all like, all right, Roman's going over. We don't have a choice here.
Oh, any prediction articles or videos I saw before Mania, everybody and their mother had Roman winning that match. Because everyone was like, well, Brock's going back to UFC, so he's not going to retain.
So obviously in my blog post before the prediction, I said that how funny would this be if this was all just a stunt? And then sure enough, and I just put it in there as being a chuckle, haha, like Brock's leaving, And then all of a sudden, Roman, starts the match out hot like you would, and then here comes Brock, and then he wins the match. And I was like, son of a gun, they're actually doing this. And then obviously the contract comes out, and then, he resigns. So
it was well played. I mean, and I think that they have to do that for especially the internet fans.
Oh, for sure.
You got to keep throwing curveballs to keep it interesting. I think if they didn't do that, I mean, it's too predictable, and then you really kind of lose interest. I will say, though, let me ask the panel this. What was your favorite match of the night? Starting with Coach.
I'm going to go with that IC match in the beginning. That's probably my favorite match of the night, and then probably a close second would be the ladies match, the Charlotte and Asuka match would be number 2. And then if I had to pick a top 3, I guess I would do the Angle and Rousey match. But the IC title match to me I thought was great, especially considering it's a triple threat match. And every guy, Stone Cold on his podcast always talks about how difficult those matches are to work and everything. Yeah. So for those guys to put on a match that they did, the quality that they did, looked great. And it came off great, too. I mean, even with Seth going over, I mean, I'm a Balor guy, so Seth going over was great, too.
I think it just builds up for that feud.
Oh, yeah, I have to agree with Coach on this one. The IC title for me was definitely my favorite, although close second for me was the mixed tag match with Kurt and Ronda. Just because I hadn't really seen, other than the videos they put out themselves, they being WWE, I really hadn't seen much of her work in the ring or what she looked like. So I just didn't know how she was going to look and how good it was going to be, how bad it could potentially be. It turned out better than I thought it was going to be.
I have to agree with you both. I thought the best match of the night was the IC match because Seth Rollins right now is the guy on both shows. He is wrestling the best matches on both shows.
And he's getting the best reaction. Look at every time his music hits. I understand the Mania crowd is going to scream, burn it down at the top of their lungs, but when you get the week after and the week after, they're still being loud as you-know-what. Speaks to him.
Yeah, I mean, he's not being booked great either. I mean, it's not like he's getting booked like he's the hottest wrestler either.
No, he's not. But every match he's been in. But I think it's also the testament to Finn Balor, too, because they've been pairing them together in matches against each other.
Right.
And now they're kind of doing the whole frenemy thing, which I'm hoping pays off for maybe a ladder match at SummerSlam between them both for the IC title.
That would be cool.
And
I'm hoping.
Seth won't tear his arm this time.
Well, I think both those guys are so professional and they're both so good that I think they're bringing the best out of each other. And I think that as much as it's on screen, I think off screen too, they're having a friendly competition of who's the best wrestler on Raw. Let alone both shows.
There's discussions between those two backstage after matches, even if they're not wrestling each other. We're they're just trying to one up each other.
Well, and when we get into the roster shakeup, I mean, I was actually really disappointed to see the club leave and go to SmackDown because I was really hoping that from where they were going to go was going to be Finn finally going heel after this run because obviously with The Miz SmackDown, I thought, how perfect would this be now? There's that little niche, mid-card heel spot that would be perfect for Seth with the club, that they can have him go against Seth up until, SummerSlam time-ish, and then whatever they do with that, break that off. And now Finn can be your number one heel going into Mania, with the club and, run roughshod over people. And I thought that would be great. I mean, obviously they didn't go in that direction, and we'll probably never see them pair together, but we can dream.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the possibilities are there. They just have a lot of different directions they can go with it, but especially now that they're doing joint pay-per-views, that you might not need to have the club on with Balor, but they can also do a run-in if they need to. I mean, they can go back and forth if they want to.
Yeah.
I think that's one nice thing about having split pay-per-views. But I think, though, overall, that was your match of the night. And Ronda definitely impressed in her match against Triple H and Stephanie with Kurt Angle as her tag team partner. Did a lot better than I thought she was going to do under the spotlight.
Well,
yes.
I was going to say, too, with that whole match, normally when they put in somebody that's a first-timer, first time in the ring and everything like that, they'll pair them with somebody that has, some experience, and Stephanie, not that Stephanie obviously, isn't inexperienced, but she hasn't gotten in the ring and taken actual bumps in probably 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to throw Ronda in there with her and them look good together was really, really impressive.
Well, to be fair, I'm with you there on the Stephanie thing. She does have experience, but her experience is nowhere near as high as some other folks on the roster.
Yeah, sure.
But you could not have paired Ronda with two better people in Kurt and Triple H for her first match. You couldn't have done that any better.
I think so. I mean, Triple H will definitely make anybody look good. I mean, he's been doing it for years. Stephanie, I mean, albeit she is not a regular wrestler by any means, but you knew that they were going to sell everything and make Ronda look like $1 million.
Oh, for sure, sure.
Because with that investment, you can't go wrong.
But, I mean, just even obviously with her being a brawler, and Ronda, to put her in the ring with Stephanie and make sure that Stephanie worked a safe style, and for Ronda to work a safe style, and make sure that everything looked crisp, to put her in with somebody that's not a usual in the ring. Normally you would pair somebody up with this, a LT and a Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yeah.
Or, Kevin Green and, or DDP and
Karl Malone.
Karl Malone, they pair people up that have, history there. So for Ronda to go in the ring with Stephanie, who she worked most with, is highly, highly impressive, and probably a prediction of what she's going to look like going forward once she gets into the ring with more of the rest, the regulars, Charlotte, an Asuka, a Sasha, a Bayley. It's going to look great.
I think he segued into my next point, too, perfectly, because I think they're going to build up Ronda to fight Charlotte next year at Mania.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And I think now they got them on separate shows. Asuka losing the streak, I think, is a good thing, albeit it's kind of one of those situations where they could have gone either way and it still would have been okay. If Asuka retained, though, I mean, if she beats Charlotte, they would just build up so much hype that I think they would set up Asuka versus Rousey for next year. But with Charlotte winning, I think now you kind of have the prestige of the Flair name against Ronda coming in, who is the dominant female in both divisions. I think it makes for a great match next year because Ronda will be seasoned by then, WWE style.
So my initial reaction to Asuka losing was a little disappointed. I mean, I was watching it with my wife, who is not the biggest Charlotte fan. So when we watched it together, we were both a little disappointed that Asuka lost because she's just such a killer.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, when she lost and it sat with me a little bit, I was like, and I thought the direction was going to be Asuka and Rousey. I thought that for sure. I thought that from the moment Rousey walked in, and especially the Royal Rumble segment at the end of the show, I was like, this has to be the setup. There's no other way they're going to go another way. And then when Charlotte won, I was like, all right, so I guess they would prefer the Rousey-Charlotte match, which obviously is the her lady four and the four horse ladies and Flair, which makes sense. I mean, that will work too.
No, yeah, I was definitely like a lot of people. I was shocked at the outcome of it. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Because if you had Asuka win and you eventually built to a Asuka versus Ronda match, I don't think anybody would have believed Asuka to win that match because Ronda's coming in. They were booking her as the baddest woman on the planet. Mm-hmm. That she's the top of them all, top of this, top of that. So you get Asuka to go undefeated until next year. I don't think anybody would have believed her to win. I think they would have been fully expecting
Like
Ronda
tee
to win.
it up that way, yeah.
Yeah, because you're billing her for a solid year as the baddest woman on the planet. But I think to Ken's point, you have Ronda and Charlotte next year. It's kind of an alpha female type situation. Who's the top? You've got the woman who, when she came up, was born and bred for this business versus the woman who's the baddest woman on the planet.
Right, like if you booked Asuka to be undefeated the entire year, it kind of you're teeing it up for Ronda to win because it's going to be her toppling the mountain that couldn't be toppled.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And plus, to close out the segment, I also have a feeling Asuka's opponent next year at Mania is going to be Shayna Baszler.
Ooh, I can see that.
Yeah.
Not a tag match, one-on-one.
Yeah.
Because I think you're going to need a competition for Asuka that she's never faced. Baszler is killing it right now in NXT.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what happens with her new feud with Nikki Cross, who I imagine is the only reason she wasn't called up.
Well, that and the women's roster at NXT did kind of just get depleted a little bit.
Depth.
With experience.
The problem is depth right now.
That is true. And we're going to talk about that next segment. Hashtag ODPHEE. Let us know your thoughts of WrestleMania. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Fair City Fire just released their new album, Shake Your Bones, and they're going on tour to support it. They're going to be playing Ransom Steel Tavern in Appalachian, New York on April 27th at 8 p.m. This is the first single off the album, Shake Your Bones. For more information, check out faircityfire.com. Coming back for part 2 of our WrestleMania segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition wrestling show. We're still doing a working title for it. We're joined in studio by Kevin Molson, a super fan and friend of the show.
What's up, everybody?
He's first time on the show, so he's a little nervous, but we're going to get him talking. Raw and SmackDown roster shakeups. Raw definitely made out well, but I think SmackDown took the prize at the end of the day. Raw got Bobby Roode, Baron Corbin, Drew McIntyre, Dolph Ziggler, Natalya, the Fashion Police, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, the Riot Squad, Jinder Mahal, Zack Ryder, Mojo Rawley, The Ascension, Noe Jose, and Chad Gable.
Also Ember Moon and Authors of Pain.
Yes, who were called up. And SmackDown got Samoa Joe, The Miz, Jeff Hardy, Absolution, Big Cass, Asuka, Anderson and Gallows, The Bar, Andreas Cien Almos, R-Truth, and Sanity eventually because they're doing promos for him.
Right.
And the Iconic Duo. I want to say the Iconic Duo, but I know it's the Iconics.
I think it's just the Iconics now.
Yeah, with Peyton Royce and Billy Kay. Am I missing anybody, gentlemen?
Not that I can think of.
Not that I can think of.
All right, so let me start off with the coach on this one. What is your thoughts post-WrestleMania for both shows?
So, I mean, obviously the names that you listed right there were a lot of mid-card guys that kind of got shuffled in between that might not have had a spot on the roster, on their other show that kind of got moved to try and, get a run in. Miz going to SmackDown I think is awesome. I think everybody's probably excited to see him and Bryan go at it finally one-on-one. I was a little disappointed to see the club move from Raw to SmackDown, like I said in the previous segment. I really was hoping they were going to pair him with Finn at some point so we could see the club in WWE. I think that would be awesome. I think they could make a lot of money with that, especially as a heel. Finn Balor, I think, would be awesome. And then the Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler tag team came out of left field. I mean, I was not expecting that. I'm looking forward to the storyline to see kind of where that goes from here, but I was very surprised by that pairing.
Yeah, I love how Dolph showed up on Monday with Drew and they had a match or whatever it was, and they get to interview in the ring after the match, and Dolph goes, I came back to Monday Night Raw, but I didn't come alone. And I'm like, yeah, that's a bodyguard if ever I saw one.
That was very surprising because I did not think those two would get paired together. But you know what? It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it helps Dolph Dolph have a heater, so he doesn't need to take a gazillion bumps in the ring every night, which has obviously been his MO for probably the last 5 years that he's been the bump guy. So to finally have a heater come out and be the bodyguard, the Diesel to his Shawn Michaels, makes a lot of sense.
And especially you're talking about two guys that have been underutilized.
For sure.
I would say. I mean, granted, McIntyre had a very good run till he got hurt in NXT.
Yeah.
But to see his story about how, he went from the Chosen One, then he was released, and he went to the Indies, and then he came back as the force that he is now.
Yeah.
Is, truly astonishing. And when you hear his promo work, you can definitely hear in his voice of how he's like, you let me go once, that was your mistake. Try getting rid of me now.
He's definitely drawn on some feelings.
Yeah, and I think that only helps, and especially with like Ziggler too, because you hear so much about his contract status. Is he signed? Is he going? What's going on? I mean, he's probably the biggest X factor on both rosters right now because you really don't know what he's doing. If this gimmick works and it keeps him there, great.
Yes.
If not, he's going to be the next Cody Rhodes on the indie scene, in my opinion.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Kev, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, I definitely think that they'll probably keep the whole Drew McIntyre, Dolph Ziggler thing for like 2-3 months, maybe, have a tag run or something. But I definitely see McIntyre turning on Ziggler, and that'd be his first big singles feud since he got to the main roster again. So,
yeah, I'm excited to see where he goes, and I think you're right too. I think eventually he is due to go for a singles run. I mean, personally, I want to see him against Strowman.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
I want to see. You want to talk about a hard-hitting match? I mean, I know Bobby Lashley is on the roster now, but I'm still waiting and seeing what's going to happen with him.
Here's your 6-man tag match. Ziggler and McIntyre with Bobby Lashley versus AOP and Braun Strowman.
That is a very big match.
Reinforce the ring, baby.
Yeah, like
I want to see it now.
I definitely could see that, and I mean, I don't think you're going to see any punches being pulled.
Nope.
In that. But I think they definitely need to establish some real threats on that roster for Raw, especially because now if Brock beats Roman
Again.
what happens now? You need to establish a true number one contender. I mean, honestly, I've been saying it for a long time. It's Braun.
Yes.
It has to be.
There's nobody else on that roster that can stand up with Lesnar right now.
And Vince is invested in the character.
On Raw, yeah. Well, he's getting himself over, and he's doing it the right way.
Well, that was my problem with Seth with the club being split to SmackDown because obviously I think Finn has a run in him as the Universal Champion. For God's sakes, they put it on him originally because he has a run in him.
And they keep referencing it.
Yeah, and they keep referencing it and everything. And I mean, for him to get robbed of the title just because of a shoulder injury, which wasn't his fault. And I know, everybody obviously knows that Vince, once somebody gets hurt, he sees injury signs and he gets nervous. But I mean, that injury was a fluke thing from a power bomb that was, delivered improperly. Nothing that he could have controlled. He had to protect himself from that bump. So I think that if he could have had the club there with him to pair him and have heaters there to go against Brock, even if you had to put Brock back as a face, which with Paul Heyman, at his side, Brock could literally be a face on one Monday, a heel the next Monday. He's interchangeable with that with Paul. That Seth or Finn could have been the heel to go against him and, either win the championship or go from there,
There's so many different ways it can go, and I'm even going to throw a crazy idea out there. I was saying about, the club should have been with Finn, and they should have had the Balor Club on there. You now have Finn on Raw. You have AJ Styles on SmackDown. Do you think they would do the club, whatever you want to call it, on both shows? For the first time ever, have like a universal faction.
I could see it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. With the way that they're talking about making sure that they keep them separate, at least, show-wise, because that's what happened before was obviously Raw, every once in a while would be a quote-unquote super show, and then all of a sudden it started to become the next Monday is a super show, and the Monday after that is a super show.
Well, the reason I bring that up is I know that we caught SmackDown, and I'm not sure if you did, Coach. Did you notice the gear that Gallows and Anderson wore out?
I did not know.
It was the OGBC Balor Club.
They wore the Balor Club shirts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was kind of going, Usually when you go to a different show, I mean, they weren't on the first show when they were traded over.
Right.
Maybe they were getting new gear.
Could be.
But I thought it was kind of telling. Like, maybe it was a subtle thing. Maybe I'm looking too much into it.
Yeah, maybe.
You never know.
But I'm thinking, what if they tried doing a split thing on both shows? I mean, obviously we saw in the WCW heyday with the NWO, it doesn't work well. But then again, when you have about 25 people in one faction,
Yeah, I mean, when the limo opens up and it's like a clown car, you got an issue.
when half of those people in that faction have creative control over the outcomes of their matches.
Yeah, which, I mean, well, that's a whole other podcast that we can't even get
That's
into.
a whole other, like, sex.
But if you think about it, so, okay, you put Gallows and Anderson with AJ, and if you make them the face faction, I guess, because the best thing to come out of the roster shakeup, in my opinion, is Shinsuke Nakamura going heel.
Oh, my God, yes. Heel Nakamura is best Nakamura.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice change of pace for him, and it should get him over a little bit better now.
I mean, just for the work alone, where Renee Young goes to
goes
to interview him, and like he's been clearly speaking English his entire run up to this point. And all of a sudden, he can't speak English.
That's gold.
He is just trolling everybody on the shows now too, especially Twitter.
Oh my God, his interaction with Corey Graves.
Yeah, he's been going at it, and I think that he needs to do this. Just a heel run for him, because it hasn't been seen before, at least to my knowledge.
No.
I was thinking the same thing, because I mean, I'm not big in, like, I like New Japan, but I didn't follow like the history of New Japan, and I was just like thinking, since I started watching it when they started working with ROH in that partnership, I was like, I don't think I've ever seen a heel or heard of a heel Nakamura. So I mean, yeah, that could be great.
No, the interaction he had with Corey Graves on Twitter had me in stitches when I read it, because Corey Graves tweeted to Nakamura, "Oh my gosh, there's some hope." Something to the effect of, "Oh my gosh, there's some hope. You've forgotten how to speak English, but you can still type in it." Nakamura quoted it, retweeted it, and said, "No hablo inglés."
Yeah, like he's having some fun with it. You can definitely tell. And I think for him, especially if you look at how stacked that SmackDown roster is now.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, Samoa Joe coming over, and let alone the promo work he's been doing.
See, let's stop. Hold on. Let's talk right there, because that was one of my biggest disappointments. Too, was him going from Raw to SmackDown, because him coming out with Roman going, "Oh, I'm here, but where's Brock?" That thing, and then Samoa Joe comes out and just puts gasoline on him and lights him on fire.
It confused
me. Oh
me.
my God. I mean, Joe was cutting some of his best promos. I mean, he was literally just dropping bombs on him, and all Roman could be like is, "Well, you're overweight. And you got a towel around your neck." But then here would Joe come back with, "You can't win, you can't win, you can't win." It was goal, like that was build up for like a perfect SummerSlam match, and then obviously if Roman wins at the Greatest Royal Rumble, and then now you go into SummerSlam with him versus Joe with the way that they were setting it up for the run, sign me up.
But you know what? I think him on SmackDown helps him, though. And I will say this. I think Raw still is very top-heavy at the main card, that he might get lost in the shuffle. He shouldn't. I mean, granted, I think he should be pushed in the main event.
I think the problem is that they're top-heavy because the champion's not there.
I agree.
So, it makes it tough because, like, it bottlenecks at the top because the champion's not there versus, like, SmackDown with AJ there, like, he can be in a position where he can still be booked as a top guy, as the top heel, but still have Nakamura going in the title run,
I'll say the thing for me is I don't hate seeing Joe on SmackDown, because let me pose you this question. Pre-roster shakeup, after WrestleMania call-ups, who was the dominant heel on SmackDown?
Well, Nakamura.
But
Pre-Mania.
I mean,
pre-Mania.
I would have had to say
Jinder?
Yeah.
Do you really see Jinder Mahal as a heel? Listen, 3-man band's all on Raw right now.
I don't see Jinder as being a top player in TNA, let alone WWE.
What Joe does for the SmackDown brand is he's that heel that if he walks out, it's the type that the crowd can instantly go, "Oh bleep."
Right, but I mean, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were kind of that too, especially Kevin.
Yeah, well, they had their heel, but I think the problem is they got so centered with Shane McMahon, and then
it got kind of goofy.
Yeah,
at times.
yeah, it did.
Well, yeah, because they got tunnel vision, because it was all of a sudden like Shane versus Daniel Bryan was getting set up,
right?
And you're kind of going like, what? Like,
Yeah, that was awful for months and months. It
Well-
was just like, oh, come on, get it over.
yeah.
That was the other problem too, though, was he wasn't cleared. So it was like they were trying to set up this match for Shane versus Bryan, and they were like, all right, we got to get you cleared. We got to get you cleared. And then he wasn't getting cleared by at least the WWE doctors. That finally last minute was like, all right, Audible, who do we throw in this real quick? And then it was, all right, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, perfect, boom. what do we do next? And then it was book. Okay, Daniel Bryan's cleared. Now we can go with it. And it was like too late to pull
the trigger
on it.
And just I don't think it just connected. But I think with Joe coming over, and especially the playing field is wide open because, like you said, the championship is not bottlenecked. That you're not waiting on Lesnar to grace you with your presence.
Right.
You have your champion who's there every week that is willing to defend it every week, and you have a top-heavy card that you can slide in 1 week an AJ Styles, or a Nakamura, and then a Daniel Bryan, and then a Samoa Joe, and then the Miz now can actually be a top player.
I'm telling you right now, I don't care who the champion is, Shinsuke Nakamura, AJ Styles, either of them versus Samoa Joe. Any of those top guys on SmackDown, sign me up. Yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, I love that too, but I would have loved to have seen a SummerSlam match of Roman versus Joe. I think that could have been
I think you
perfect.
still can.
I mean, yeah, I know it's the joint pay-per-views, but I mean, if they're doing this true, like they've said that they want to do, where they keep the brands separate minus the pay-per-views, then you won't see Joe versus Roman, so you won't see that payoff. Now, the Miz and Joe and Jeff Hardy and all those guys going over to Raw, it's like, all right, now the mid-card's really heavy there, you know? And I mean, with AJ and Nakamura probably running this program through Smack till SummerSlam, which you have to imagine that they probably will, given the way that the storyline's been right now. I mean, what do you do after that? All right, so now you put Joe with Styles, and then what do you do with the Miz right now? Is it Miz Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam?
No,
and then
I
you
think
got
you build
Big
that
Cass.
for Mania. You build that for Mania.
I don't know. I think that the Miz is going to be behind Big Cass, like attacking Daniel Bryan. I think that is going to lead to Miz versus Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam.
I can see that.
Do you think that actually is now your modern day Shawn Michaels Diesel with the Miz and Big Cass?
Well, I mean,
the
if
Miz-
it actually is the storyline that's going on, you know,
The Miz is missing his Miz-tourage, as it were, on SmackDown.
Yeah,
he's running solo.
The moves were very, very interesting because it was like we said, the top players really didn't necessarily move. It was a lot of the mid card guys. But now it's like, all right, now that the post roster shakeup's here, where do you position these mid card guys as far as either giving them a run, or do you kind of just wait for their spot to then get their run? But is it going to be too late to pull the trigger by the time they can get a shot?
I'll tell you what, though, the one that excites me the most is probably calling up Ember Moon and Authors of Pain on Raw. Authors of Pain alone for that tag team division, whoa
huge.
Boy.
Oh yeah,
boy.
Them and Sanity should really liven up the tag division. But for me, it's got to be Almas.
Yeah, okay, I'll
if
give you that.
Booked correctly, I mean, think of the pure wrestling too of him versus Daniel Bryan, him versus AJ Styles.
Oh my God, if they get Rey Mysterio
I mean, they will
back?
do some serious.
I'm
matches.
already saying this. How about him versus Jeff Hardy for that U.S. title?
Yeah,
Oh my
that will
Lord,
probably be a
oh my
good
Lord,
program.
have mercy.
I'd be okay because Almas ever since he got Selena Vega has been a different guy.
Yes.
Well, I think it helps when you have that when obviously if you're not a versed English speaking heel or even a face, it's very difficult for you to get over with the crowd. You know, they've talked about that kind of help hold back guys like Shinsuke and other guys who haven't been able to speak English very well, that they just can't connect with the crowd. Taka Michinoku comes to mind. Like, now when you have somebody who can speak English, and can be your heater as a heel, now you have somebody that can liven that crowd up that will get you booed even though your work is great, which is exactly what Almas needed.
Yeah.
Because when he first came up, I was like, when he was in NXT, I was kind of like, what is the what's so special about this guy? And then all of a sudden when I saw that match with him and Gargano, literally that's why I love wrestling, was that match, because I literally was on the edge of my couch still screaming, even though you kind of I didn't know where it was going to go. It was pure.
Yeah, and I think that just is a true testament of just how deep the roster is now.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even if you count NXT and 205 in that division, in that conversation as well.
Yeah.
All four brands are looking very good.
Yeah,
I mean, I think SmackDown is looking a little better than Raw just for the pure wrestling aspect, but I think Raw has got a lot of more stars that are already established.
Oh yeah, Raw's got the big boys too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Raw to me is kind of the more questioning one for me, and I mean that in the way that I don't really know how they're going to go with it. Because SmackDown, I'm already getting matches made in my head that I want to see. Raw, it's kind of like, okay, maybe I could. I'm not 100% sure on anything.
Like we just said before, Seth Rollins is wrestling the best wrestling of his career possibly right now, and he's the Intercontinental Champion.
Because, you know why? Because their regular champion doesn't appear every week.
Exactly. So what does that tell you from a depth standpoint for Raw? That it is top heavy and deep deep. Then you look at SmackDown, and you've got your two top guys in Nakamura and AJ, and then you've got a lot of mid-card depth. And then you look at NXT, and you got Adam Cole, baby, and you got all those guys down there that are Roderick Strong.
Oh, yeah.
You got
Ricochet, EC3.
I mean, my God, this is that second coming of NXT
So
that
the
Triple H was
the floodgates
projecting.
are filling.
Yeah, exactly. Like Triple H was talking about that NXT was going to load up again, and that's exactly like when the roster that was there before Finn. When Finn had that really long run with the title, that was probably the last time that the roster was as depleted as it was previously to this now group there. You got Aleister Black. I mean, that whole NXT roster is so loaded that when they get up, people are going to have to get fired. There's just not going to be a choice.
It's going to be really weird to see everybody's spot on there. That, it's just when they do call-ups, I mean, now especially, it's like you really got to be standing out from the crowd. Because if you're not doing everything to get over, I mean, no matter which way or another you're doing, whether it's you're doing like Rusev, who's probably has the most organic way of getting over since Daniel Bryan.
I would say yes.
And starting the Rusev Day thing, that's probably been the biggest thing to get somebody over that hasn't been forced down or pushed, just let alone it's just charisma happening.
I mean, the guy that you got to, like, No Way Jose, that it's like, the dancing gimmick, you got to worry about that with the depth that's in NXT right now. He needs to watch whatever over his shoulder.
And Booker didn't do any favors the other night by calling him Adam Rose.
No.
Yeah,
I know. When we were watching,
spade a spade,
When he debuted, I know we said it when we were watching, and we said it again this week. It feels like It feels like Adam Rose, just minus the kooky dressed up characters.
Yeah, the bunny.
Give it time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just a thing about the characters. I mean, if you have somebody that's getting over, and you have somebody that feels like it's forced getting over. And I mean, that's the thing with No Way Jose. I mean, he's great in the ring.
Yes.
From what I've seen. I mean, he can definitely go. I mean, I hate the gimmick, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like I said, I think it's like Adam Rose 2.0, and just like this didn't connect, and this will get old very quick.
Yeah, because it's only going to go so far. You look at a guy like a Bobby Roode, who every time that man comes out, the place, including myself, is going, yes, he's here, glorious, the whole nine. No Way Jose comes out, I'm like, oh, well, here comes the conga line.
I think the other problem, too, with No Way Jose is that it's the Bailey thing. NXT's crowd is 100, or Emma's a good example.
Yeah.
The NXT crowd is 1,000 times different than a Raw crowd because the NXT crowd is not built to that, but they are catered to that type of show because they are there and they are hardcore, and there's only 300 of them that are in that building, and they're all passionate and they all want to be there, versus the Raw crowd, which is like, your mom, dad, and son, or your mom, dad, and daughter, or your mom, daughter, what have you, that are casual fans that see the No Way Jose come out, and they see the way that he's booked as this dancing guy, and they're like, why is this guy dancing in the ring,
It's just a difference just between the major roster and the indies. So we're going to take a quick break, but let us know what you think. Hashtag ODPHEE. What's your thoughts on the roster shakeups? We're going to come back, talk to Jonny Moose from Xcite Wrestling. You're listening to the ODPH.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Ciatoy, local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves, you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where we'd be.
Coming back for the third segment on this week's pro wrestling edition of the ODPH. And this weekend, Xcite Wrestling is back at the Post 80 American Legion, Binghamton, New York, Sunday, April 29th, live on Twitch TV if you can't make it in. Folks, the man needs no introduction. Jonny Moose from Xcite Wrestling is on the phone. John, what is going on?
Well, you kind of gave me an introduction.
Yeah, that's true. It's just force of
I
habit.
guess I did need an introduction. Hi, guys. How are ya?
Doing well.
What's going on, Moose?
What's up, Moose?
Moose.
So we got a show. You guys are talking wrestling, all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like excited, pun intended, for this Sunday.
Aha.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, I saw what you did there. Yeah, Xcite, Very excited for Sunday. If
Uh-huh.
you didn't get your tickets yet, you can buy your tickets right now at xcitewrestling.com/shop. Technically, front row VIPs have been sold out for a bit. We haven't hyped out that they're sold out because I keep trying to sell them because I'm a greedy promoter. But if you want a reserve seat, at most that I could sell is maybe 3, at most, and then we're really, really, really sold out. And then we have to be sold out because if you oversell it, then people get mad. So the first 3 people that buy one of the reserved VIP super tickets, where you get a front row, a meet and greet with Scott Steiner, picture and autograph on a poster. They're coming. They should be here tomorrow. Good time, food, drinks, all that stuff.
It's always a good time going to the experience.
I have people coming in from Ohio to wrestle on the VIP because Dave Dawson won't stop, hitting me up because he wants to feel the excitement as much as he can. So it should be a mighty fine time. And, of course, I understand that the VIPs, I think we talked about it last time, are a little bit more expensive. General admission tickets are on sale right now. If you buy them online, they're $15. If you go see the Avengers, you're probably going to spend more money, and you're going to end up leaving sad when Captain America dies.
Whoa, spoilers here, Moose. Whoa.
Well, hey, man, I don't read comic books, but I've been told things
Oh,
that
okay.
happen in the comic book, and it's just inevitable that I will be crying like an emotional girl or guy who watches Braveheart, which I do, when I see Captain America lay down his shield one more time to try to save the world. Even though he's from America, named after America, he still tries to save the world. Good man, Captain America.
It's very true, and especially if you go see Avengers either Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, you have all day to go see Xcite on Sunday.
Exactly. Really, when I booked the show, let's go back into the history of Xcite. The second show I ever ran, I believe, ran on May 2nd. Now, I could be wrong on the dates, but I know I'm pretty close to the correct date. It was the first weekend in May. I, an inexperienced promoter, being only my second show, did not look at the things happening around me. So not only was the circus in town that night, the baseball team was playing down the street. There was another wrestling show, but they're crappy. It doesn't matter. And the Avengers was opening that weekend.
So there was some stuff going on.
Every theater from miles around were sold out, because that was opening night too, I believe.
Oh, jeez.
Of the Avengers. Needless to say, even with Tommy Dreamer and Steve Corino, we still had a rough night. We did okay, though. Surprisingly okay, all things considered. But, I've tried to learn to even look at movies or look at baseball games, look at hockey games, look at the things happening around and try not to book at the same time. Now, I booked a weekend that was free and clear of any worldwide blockbuster breaking records on just pre-sale type movies. Then they moved the date on me. That's on Marvel. And Disney. That's not on me.
This is true.
They're trying to squash the little guy here.
Exactly. Exactly. So, what are you going to do? We're actually selling a bunch of tickets. It should be a good time. Scott Steiner. We're unleashing Scott Steiner on the American Legion post-80. There was talk, what's going to happen when Bubba Ray Dudley enters the American Legion? Will that ever happen? And then it did happen at a 2CW show. And they're like, what is he going to say when he's with the drunk fans at the American Legion? And then, of course, he went off on somebody. I know he did. And the fans loved it. Now, I ask you, all 18 of you in the studio right now, what will happen when Scott Steiner enters the American Legion on Sunday?
I am fully predicting chaos. He is just going to get on that microphone and maybe start a riot. Maybe. Like 95% sure, yes.
No, yeah, I'd have to agree with that one. The only thing that comes to mind is the WWE had a live show here a couple of years ago, and Cesaro cut a rather heel promo on how he was surprised that the arena was filled at all because he didn't think Binghamton had any internet.
Yeah, well, he's probably right.
I just worry about that ceiling fan taking a Frankensteiner, that's all.
Well, it could happen. Those ceiling fans always annoy me. There's balloons hanging off of them. It's not, worldwide Twitch ready. But I'm actually on my way currently with trussing by my head because I had to make 2 trips because the thing's so big. 23-foot trussing that I purchased for this show that I'm breaking into pieces. So, the Legion's going to look pretty, if nothing else. It's going to be fun. If you don't have your tickets, they're $15. That was the whole point of the Marvel thing. You're going to spend a lot more on a movie, although that movie, usually I tell people it probably won't be good enough, and that one probably will be. But for the money, there isn't much of a better value than an Xcite show. I am biased, obviously, but with Scott Steiner, who's been everywhere, huge name, one of the biggest names, honestly, to ever come to one of the shows like mine in the Binghamton area.
True story.
I think honestly, the Dudleys, Scott Steiner, and Rob Van Dam. I could be wrong. I mean, Cody Rhodes is up there, but I would say from a name value in the history of wrestling, I think people would know the name Scott Steiner more than they would know Cody Rhodes. Obviously, the Rhodes name goes a long way.
Oh, yeah.
But I would make that argument just because Scott Steiner's been doing it since the 80s with the Steiner brothers and how awesome he was there. And then it moved into the NWO and Big Papa Pump and his zaniness at the WWE. And he's done it. He's been everywhere. He's still doing it. He looks tremendous, in better shape than just about all of us.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no line there.
And then he's taking on, the local kid, Axel Lennox, guy that's an Xcite original, been there since day one, which I don't know if people have noticed, but over the last half year or whatever it might be, has worked at getting himself into really, really good shape. He's helped take over training people at the 607 Strong Academy. He's just working on just being absolutely a beast in the ring. And let's be honest, there's going to be a lot of people there to see Scott Steiner and think it's awesome that he's here in Binghamton. There's going to be a lot of people in that Legion that are ready to see Axel Lennox kick his ass. Will he be able to? I don't know. But it's going to make an interesting dynamic at the Legion on Sunday. I'm trying my best to shield this before I get into the other stuff, because I can't stress before we get into a little darker cloud as I bring it down here. I can't stress enough, this is going to be a really cool show. It's going to be the start of 3 shows in the span of 2 months here in Binghamton that I think are going to blow people away. And this might be one of the best ones of the bunch. So buy your tickets. Come out and support us. If you buy them at the door, they're $20. So if you buy them ahead of time online, you save $5. Even at $20, still not a bad deal, all things considered, for what you get. And you guys know, usually you don't sit in seats. You're usually standing against the wall. There really is no bad place to sit at the Legion.
No.
Or stand, for that matter.
No, wherever you go in the Legion is a good spot, because especially the crowd is always live. The wrestlers are always kicking ass and doing their thing, and you get your money's worth and then some. So, like, for somebody to say that they've never gone to an Xcite show, this is a perfect one to go to. And
it's a pretty good one. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. You were shilling it, and I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I'll shill it for you. I mean, let alone you got Scott Steiner versus Axel Lennox. You also got Brute Van Slyke versus Mr. Athletic Jeff Cobb, who have you not...
we're going to talk about that in a second. But keep going.
No, but like I said, you got Jeff Cobb coming back. who, if you haven't seen him on Lucha Underground or haven't seen his work in PWG and all over the indies, the man is impressive top to bottom, and he will do things in the rings that you just wouldn't think a guy his size can do, let alone go against Brute, who's been on a roll lately.
Screen, but, okay.
What's that, Moose?
I said that might be on a big screen somewhere, but go ahead.
True, very true. And, I mean, I think you got 2 out of 3 falls with, was it Leon St. Giovanni? I hope I'm pronouncing that right, versus Slick Wagner Brown.
Yep.
I mean, that's going to be probably your
Which,
sleeper.
honestly, I think, honestly, it's going to come down to this. Now, not to take anything away from the main event, and the main event undoubtedly will be Scott Steiner and Axel Lennox tearing apart the Legion. But the 2 matches that I think will blow people away from a pure wrestling standpoint, because make no mistake, the Axel Lennox Scott Steiner match will be a brawl around the whole Legion. The matches that will just be a wrestling fan's dream undoubtedly will be LSG versus Slick Wagner Brown, or LSG versus SWB if you just want to use initials. And of course, there's also the heavyweight championship match between Sean Carr and Joe Gacy, the new Xcite Wrestling heavyweight champion.
2-time Xcite champs.
That the first 2-time Xcite Wrestling heavyweight champion, Joe Gacy. Those matches, I feel like I can show them to anybody and be like, this is Xcite Wrestling, and people will be blown away by it. We can do the same thing with Scott Steiner and Axel Lennox, but that's playing into a different type of fan that wants to just see 2 guys punch each other in the face as hard as they can.
Yeah.
So let's begin. Okay, so I think we've hyped it. If you don't know, there's 7-8 big matches. It's at the American Legion Post City. Cheapest beer that you can buy at a wrestling show. Food. Cheap tickets. Buy them online right now. Hell, you can message me. Even if you can't get it online, some people don't trust the internet. That's fine. Message me. Jonny Moose on Facebook. If you're saying you want to buy a ticket, I will respond. Anybody else, it's 50-50 at best. So message me, and I will make sure that you can get tickets at a discounted rate when you buy them at the door. My door girls really hate it when I do that, but I will do that if you need, and you can't get them online. Message me, and I'll take care of you. Let's get into what I told you to hype up, because I told you in the last 2 weeks, and this might sound like I'm whining, and I don't want it to come off like I'm whining, because anybody that's ever promoted wrestling or promoted anything, concerts or boxing or MMA, they go through the same kind of thing, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
But the last 2 weeks have not been very cool to be a pro wrestling promoter for Xcite Wrestling. So I told you, hype up I was coming because I was going to make a big announcement. Now, the announcement that I'm going to make right now was not the big announcement I was going to make.
Okay.
But you hyped it up, so I should probably clarify. Jeff Cobb is going to be in England on Sunday.
Oh, man.
It got announced, but I don't think anybody actually paid attention today to the announcements, because I wasn't really the one really hammering it home. The company in England was. What ended up happening is this, and this was the beginning of my 2-week period. So, obviously, the last few shows we've had various issues. Austin Aries dropping off 2 days before the show because he hurt his back. It's not Xcite's fault. What are you going to do?
Right.
We got Braxton Sutter. We tried our best. March, we had a state of emergency, snowstorm. Literally out of my hands. If I could have stopped the weather, I would, but I don't have control. The SARS machine that controls the weather, and I can't do it. So we had to move the show, and I knew it didn't matter what date I picked. I would have to do a Wednesday in the middle of the week if I wanted to have Nick Aldis, because they were in the middle of their push of as many title matches in 60 days. We're going to send them across the world. We're going to send them to China. We're going to send them to England. We're going to send them everywhere. I knew no matter what date I booked, he was going to be booked. It's just what was going to happen. So it was out of my hands. What can you do? These things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So going into this April show, honestly, if being an honest promoter, if I could for a second, and it's rare, if I knew I was going to have Scott Steiner, I probably wouldn't have booked Jeff Cobb. Just because Scott Steiner by himself is a huge draw.
Yeah.
Jeff Cobb headlined our September show by himself. They're their own main events. They are incredible talents. Having both of them on a show makes the show a mega show, but it wasn't necessarily something that we needed to do, especially considering we were changing the venue and all that stuff. And what ended up happening is this was a little bit more in my control, but from a PR standpoint, it wasn't. So a company came to me from England and said, hey, listen, we have a big show. We sold a bunch of tickets. And our headliner was, wow, I just blanked out on the name. Who's the bro? And he doesn't wear shoes and he kills everybody.
Oh, Matt Riddle.
Matt Riddle, there you go. Wow, I just sounded like an idiot right there.
It's all
Anyway,
good, Moose. All good.
they had Matt Riddle was the headliner and pulled off the show 2 weeks before their show was on Saturday. Pulled off 2 weeks because I guess he was having a problem with his passport visa. I don't know what it was. I didn't ask. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So then they got Shane Strickland to replace him.
Okay.
And they announced him, and an hour later he pulled off the show. I don't know why. My guess is he's got these commitments now with MLW, and he's Shane Strickland. One of the guys that's been an Xcite for many, many times. He's blown up. He's really taking over wrestling right now, which I'm extremely happy to see. So now they're left in a lurch, week and a half to their show, no name, and they're in England. So let's be honest, all the United States wrestlers are either booked or the idea of flying to England on a spur of no, you can't. So what I didn't know was they went to Beyond, because I guess they're part of Powerbomb TV. It's a streaming company that streams a lot of great companies. Not that I want to take away from our Twitch, but you could support them. They're not going to steal your money with not quality programming. Anyways, I'm showing other companies. Look what I'm doing. It's amazing.
Yeah, Moose, you're just rolling, man.
I know. Long story short, Beyond Wrestling had Jeff Cobb on Saturday in Philadelphia. I had him on Sunday, and technically Wrestle Circus had him on Friday in Austin, Texas, or wherever. I think that's where they're out of. Long story short, Wrestle Circus canceled their show.
Yeah, they're having venue issues according to their Facebook thing.
Yeah. They canceled their show. He's out his Friday booking. Beyond's talking to this company in England. I think it's Pro Wrestling Chaos, I believe is his name. I could be wrong. I'm usually wrong. And because they're both part of the Powerbomb network, they're like, yeah, you can take Cobb. So now Cobb lost his Friday show. He lost his Saturday show. I was like, yeah, you can take him. And then there's me. Like, hey, I'm here at Xcite. And more or less what it comes down to is this. I could have said no, and it would have been fine. Nobody would have even known any of this stuff happened unless somebody made it public, which I would hope that wouldn't be the case, but it could have been. But having my own problems with my name wrestlers over the last few shows, I understand what they were going through. And honestly, Jeff Cobb's going to make more money being over in England than he would be here. because the flyover, he gets paid more. He'll sell more tickets or T-shirts. He'll sell more gimmicks. He'll make a lot more money in one show, or if he picked up more shows while he's over there, than he would just doing the Xcite show. Especially when we have Scott Steiner, who, let's be honest, I assume a lot of people are going to want to get pictures, a lot of people are going to get autographs, and if he has shirts or whatever he's going to be selling, he's going to be the main focus. And while I think Jeff would do okay here, he's not going to do as well as he would do over there. So I could either be the greedy promoter and be like, no, he's staying here, or I could do these guys a solid and hopefully start a working relationship, which looks like it could happen, with a company over in England. Let's be honest, there's some really great talent over there that now I might have a conduit to get by just, taking one for the team and trying to be the good guy, and that's where we're at. So obviously, I think I will have to obviously post something again, because they posted it on the Facebook and the Twitter and stuff like that, tagged us and all that stuff, but I don't think really most people paid attention to it, so I think we'll make our own announcement.
Yeah, I completely missed it. I had no idea until you just said something. Like I said, I've been trying to keep an eye on it too, and I haven't seen anything.
So, and that's not the big announcement that I said could be a dampering brown cloud on our day.
Oh, man. All right.
Brown cloud. Is there
I'm bracing.
Clouds? I guess it'd be gray or dark or black clouds. So, June 2nd, we obviously have a big show. We have lots of great talent on it.
The Nice Egg Show.
Unfortunately, yes, the Nice Egg Stadium show. Unfortunately, there's other companies running at that time. House of Hardcore is running that day. But really, the guys that I booked, that's not really a conflict for them. So that's fine. And they're like 4 or 5 hours away. That's not a problem for us.
Okay.
Ring of Honor's running in New York City. So that kind of hampers some of the stuff. We were going to have, LSG on that show, and now we can't because he's doing, the national TV taping. What a jerk, not being here for that. So, but it's not, a lot of their talent is under contract, so we wouldn't have had them anyways. Now, TNA added dates on that weekend as well. British Columbia or something, where I think they're in Canada or near Canada.
I think so, yeah. They're up north. I know that.
So it kind of hurt us. I think on the last show I mentioned Braxton wasn't going to be there, which is okay. We've had him on the show. We'll have him on more shows. Not really worried about that. But other talent might have popped up on TNA recently that might.
Tessa.
Yeah. So I got a message about a week ago, and you get a message from a talent. They say, "Hey, get a hold of me right away." One of two things: it's either about travel, because usually pay's already worked out, or it could be about something coming up. Now, my assumption talking to her was something came up that she couldn't get out of. And I either assumed that maybe she was doing WWE thing because she's done the NXT stuff, or she works with an agent that books her, and she, as a testament to us, didn't ask for like a deposit or anything, but her agent usually does. So if he didn't know that we booked her and took a deposit from somebody else, he's kind of obligated her to do that. That's what I was thinking in my head. And then on Sunday, she showed up at the pay-per-view. So without talking to her about it, because really it's not my business to ask her what she's doing. If she can't make it, she can't make it. I don't feel that I need to know. And now that I see her on TNA, it makes me put two and two together. I mean, I'm not the mathematician Scott Steiner is, but
few people are, Moose. Few are.
No. And when I told you that I had this announcement, I want you guys as wrestling fans to give me the negative reaction, because I know there's going to be a negative reaction to this. I wasn't going to announce it until at least after the show. But TNA forced my hand, because as soon as she showed up, I had 3 messages, no less than 3 messages from fans going, hey, she's on TNA. What does this mean for the show? They already knew. You know what I mean? Most people aren't thinking that way, but when you start to really put 2 and 2 together, then you're like, oh, right, that makes sense. And so, unfortunately, Tessa's not going to be here. So that leaves me with a quandary of what to do to replace her with. One thought is to try to do women's match of some sort, because that's what it was going to be originally. A lot of talent are doing a women's tournament, I think, of some sort in Wisconsin or something like that, because I looked into it.
Mm-hmm.
The day of our show. So I don't know if I'll be able to do that. There was talk of replacing her with former WWE type person. So I don't know. My answer is I don't know what we're going to do. I hope to have an answer by Sunday. I'd really like to have an answer by Sunday. So, but I wanted to, now that the cat's out of the bag, I want your honest reaction, and then I will tell you all why you're wrong. Just dead wrong.
Why I'm mad about this? Nothing you did. I'm just disappointed Tessa is not going to be here. I'm actually kind of glad that one member did not make it to the panel this week.
Yeah.
Because one of our Xcite crew has been like saving his money to get the Tessa B Ain't Nothing to F With shirt that she had at Wrestle Circus and was bringing, I think, to Nice Egg. I'm just glad that he is not here, because he probably would have thrown something through a window or
yeah, it would have gotten real violent real fast.
It would have got really tense. But it's something out your it's something out your hands, Moose. But I mean, I'm disappointed as a fan, because I was very excited to see her. Like when you announced that she was booked, I think of all the names that you mentioned, and the card is stacked as is. But still, I was like, holy, Tessa is coming here. Tessa Blanchard is one of the best female wrestlers on the planet. Well, let alone she is one of the best wrestlers on the planet. So, I mean, it hurts, but...
And then on the flip side, I mean, losing Jeff Cobb, it sucks, but at the same time, you're doing, like you said, you're doing a solid for a company that you can hopefully build a working relationship with, and maybe down the line make some connections that you previously wouldn't have if you'd have said, no, I'm keeping him.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I mean, like the situation with Jeff Cobb, I mean, I'm a big Jeff Cobb fan. So, I mean, it sucks, but, I mean, I'm still excited about the show, because I think the show, I'm not blowing smoke here either. I thought the show, when you announced it, was stacked pretty solid, too. Because I think there's a lot, watching the Xcite roster, there are guys that are going to go out there and break their necks and go crazy and lay it all in the ring. So I know definitely, no matter what happens, it's going to be a solid show. And the Tessa thing, man, I mean, I'm disappointed. But, I mean, it's something out of your hands. But the one thing I will say, Moose, you've always found a way to make it up to the fans, and you've always put on a solid product no matter what curveball has been thrown to you. So whatever you come up with, I know is going to knock it out of the park.
Well, I appreciate that. It's one of those things, honestly, it's one of those things that we've had a string of bad luck, and that's what I would call it, a string of bad luck. And there's some things are out of our hands. You know, I had surgery. That was kind of out of my hands. Unfortunately, way out of my hands. The Austin Aries thing, you know, he hurt his back. Could that have been a line? Could he have not have hurt his back at all? Yeah. But who am I to go to him and be like, you're lying, I need you to show up?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. And the snowstorm and stuff like that. So it's been a string of not cool things. And if let's put it this way, if it was Jeff Cobb by himself and we didn't have Steiner, he wouldn't be going to England. And I messaged Jeff before I pulled the trigger on anything. And I talked to him, and he said he is actually, while he understood the situation to be what it was, and he understood that he could do better financially if he went to England, he was disappointed in the fact that he wasn't going to be wrestling Brute, because he thinks he owes it to him when he doesn't owe him anything. He feels he owes Brute this match.
Yeah, because I know you guys already tried having it, and then Brute got hurt on that night, I believe.
He took one step aboard. The boards, all they literally are is 2 by 10 by 16, and they're they're just laying on a thing. So when he stepped on the board moved a little bit, his calf popped, and he tore his calf muscle. Out of the match before he even touched anybody. A freak fluke accident injury. He didn't blame anybody. It was just one of those things. He had mentioned that he was been working out recently and his calf was really tight. It was going to happen. It could have been him stepping off a curb. It happened to happen at the Xcite show, which made it worse. And he was super into that match with Cobb because this is it. Two big guys throwing around each other. And, of course, we had AJ in there as well. But what ends up happening, he's upset. We're working on a new date because he wants this match.
Yeah.
That was the one thing. And I told him, listen, we can do this, but I want to make sure that we get a date in the can. And we're still working on making that happen. So that was a bummer. The Tessa thing, it's one of those things it happens. With 2CW, they got a little bit of notoriety. I can't tell you what the name of the show was because I don't remember it. And it was a paragraph about we named this show.
Oh, we named the show because the Young Bucks were available this date?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
That was Monday, I think, that show was on because they became so hard to book. And you would book them, and then something would happen, and maybe one of them couldn't make it, or you just couldn't book them because they were so busy. Same thing with Kevin Steen, or same thing with Sami Callihan, same thing with all these guys. That's part of the reason, a small part of the reason why 2CW eventually went away was because it just becomes harder to promote a wrestling show because the talent has so many places and opportunities to work that they're getting booked a year in advance now. You have to put your dates out a year in advance, which is insane to me if you want certain talent to be there. And it's just the way it goes. And even if you book that talent for that date, that doesn't mean TNA or Ring of Honor or Impact or WWE won't come calling. And you built this show a year in advance, it doesn't matter. They're going to be on national TV. They're not going to be on your show.
Moose, real quick though, that's a great thing though too to see that indie wrestling is so popular that these guys are able to get bookings and stuff. I mean, I know on a promotion side, it's got to suck and it puts a lot of pressure on you, but it's got to be a good feeling seeing that indie wrestling is so popular right now.
It's great. The last year to 2 years was the best year to 2 years we've had in our 6 years. Our business is up. It's been up. We're getting better talent. Wrestling as a whole, whether people like what WWE is doing or not, or people like what Impact is doing or not, wrestling as a whole is much bigger today than it was 6 months ago or a year ago. Are they doing 9, 8 ratings or whatever? No, but you know what? They have 2 million people watching the network and paying $10 a month to watch their content. They're making loads of money here and there. Indie companies are making lots of money if they're promoting it right. We're in a time where it's weird because some things are really great, some things are really bad, but everybody can be doing really well if they're cultivating what's out there. And Xcite's kind of riding that wave right now. We're doing really well, even despite the little issues that keep popping up. But then you run into things like I ran into yesterday, where yesterday my ambulance company, because New York State says, okay, you need to have $100,000 or $50,000 death and dismemberment insurance. They lowered it a little bit. $7,000 accidental for the wrestlers, and that costs a good amount of money, and you have to pay show to show. Then you have to have a doctor there. A doctor to sit there for 3 hours, you can imagine what they might charge you. Now, granted, my doctor, who I've had for almost 6 years, has been very, very generous with his time with us, and not tried to way overcharge us, which he could do if he really wanted to, and he doesn't. So I always will recommend him for everything, or anything for that matter. So you got to have the insurance, you got to have the doctor. Last year they added you have to have an ambulance and an EMT at every show. Does not matter what show it is, they have to be there, and they have to be there for the whole show. You add that to the building fee and stuff like that. Well, my ambulance company called me, and their rates were middle of the road. I've seen a little higher, I've seen a little lower, but they weren't horrible. And I'll be honest with you, the ambulance company that I've worked with are great. I don't have any complaints about them at all. They come in, I barely see them. I hope I never have to talk to them, because that means someone got hurt. So far, so good. Things have been great. They don't even send me a bill anymore. I just show up with a check and say, here you go, thanks guys. That's it, because that's the kind of working relationship we have. They call me, said, hey, did you get the new rates? And I'm like, no, I didn't get the new rates. They almost tripled
Holy
rates per hour. So, now we're looking at if you want to run a show in this building here, and granted, I get discounts and stuff like that. It would be more if someone else wanted to run a show. Of course, we wouldn't let that happen because we kind of got the Legion locked down. But it's going to cost over $2,000 to run a show before you book Talent One. Now, for some people, that might be, like every day. That's what their shows are. They might be in a bigger city. The buildings might cost a lot more money. The insurance might cost them more money. Their ambulances might cost them more money. But for Binghamton, New York, which has like 40,000 people, we're not talking about Philly where there's 2 million people that could show up at your show. We're talking about a very small area in a building that holds 200 to 400 people. That's what it is. And you got to think economically what this area is. And I love Binghamton. I think we talked about this. But I wouldn't say this is the most economically booming area in the country.
Not at current time, though.
So you're limited on what you could charge people for a ticket. $15 to me is a sweet spot. You could do $10 a ticket, and that's even better. We've done that at shows from time to time. But $15 doesn't seem too high. It doesn't seem too low. It's kind of like a sweet spot, because if you buy baseball tickets, it's going to cost you $12 to $15. If you buy a hockey ticket, I assume it's about the same price. Same with a movie. It's kind of right in that sweet spot area. If you start raising that to $20, $25 for a GA ticket, unless you're getting something bonus, like the baseball stadium show, the tickets are $22, but you get the wrestling show and you get the baseball show. And as you guys pointed out, it's kind of like our Wrestlemania.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to put on the show. You can't go higher. I talked to the commission guy today, and he's like, well, it trickles down. You got to go from the tickets to the fans to things and the things. I'm like, but you can't. You can't do that here. And what I also found out, because I started calling around, there's a lot of ambulance companies here, but according to, I don't know if it's state law, city law, I don't know what it is, some kind of ordinance where they will issue certificates per city. And there's only so many certificates they can issue. I don't know if it's based on attendance, or not attendance, but by population or whatever it might be. There is only 2 ambulance companies that you can have at your show if you run a show in Binghamton, New York. 2.
Interesting.
There's like 15 different ambulance companies within a ratio of like 10 miles. But doesn't matter. Those other ambulance companies will only be able to do your thing. Whether you got hurt or you're running a wrestling show, those ambulance companies can't help you unless the 2 ambulance companies that are contracted for the city say they can't do it. So that's the only time that you'll see a different ambulance company come and help you, because the other ones are contracted to do it. So now they can raise their rates to whatever they want to raise their rates, and there's nothing Jonny Moose, promoter guy, can do about it? Zero. And so now I'm looking at, well, okay, our shows run 2 to 3 hours. That's just the thing. If you run a 3-hour show, it's over $1,000 for
Wow.
an ambulance.
Okay.
Literally sit outside the door and have the EMT sit there. And that's what I'd rather have them do. I don't want them actually doing anything because that means something bad happened.
Right.
So then you have that thought, like, what becomes the threshold of it being worth running a show? That's what's gone through my head. Like, yeah, we're doing okay. Yeah, these shows are making a little bit of money, but they're not making a lot of money. If you tripled the ambulance price, now we're going, okay, that $600 profit now is a $100 loss or whatever it might be. So then you got to start thinking about things like that. So that's what I've been doing with today. So I have to go back to the commission and be like, listen, and I already talked to him today, and I'm like, listen, there's literally a hospital 2 miles away called Wilson. There's a hospital 2 miles away called Lourdes, or there's a hospital called General 3 miles away. I mapped it out. So within a 3-mile radius, there's 3 hospitals. I also found out the Binghamton Fire Department, which is one of the contracted ambulance companies to the city, has their loading bay with the ambulance is a quarter mile down the road, on the same road. It's a quarter mile away. If we had someone get hurt, obviously the first person in the ring will be the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone's really hurt, we're going to know right away that ambulance could be here literally in 90 seconds or less. However long it takes for that guy to get in his truck and drive it here very fast with all the lights going, people are out of his way, 90 seconds. Even me, slow guy, can do it. So I don't know what's going to happen. Right now I'm going to be shelling out more money for Sunday because that's just the way it's got to be. I got told yesterday, and they're like, yeah, the rates started April 1st. Oh, okay. Cool. So this is and again, I don't want this to sound whiny, but this is what we're dealing with now in New York State. And I understand the good regulations. It keeps the shitty promoters out, and I get that, and I appreciate that. And the whole point of the ambulance and the doctor and the EMP and the insurance is to make sure the guys are taken care of. I get that. But at the same time, it's slowly becoming economically harder to be in business. And they did the same thing with MMA, where they charged an ungodly amount for insurance and everything else. And the whole concept being that they don't want some chip bag promoter letting someone die in the ring or cage or whatever it would be.
Yeah, I think
because it's fair.
Yeah, I think. I'm sorry. No, I think when we had Vince Iatoli on, our local MMA fighter, he was actually talking about that in his episode, about the insurance issues they were having for the MMA locally.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They are pricing it out, so you can literally not do it unless you're a big promoter that's going to sell a lot of tickets. And if you're going to sell a lot of tickets, be a big promoter, obviously you're probably not some shitbag guy who's going to take advantage of people and let somebody get hurt. So I get the concept, but it's making it harder for someone like me who's ran for 6 years, talked to the commission guy who, for whatever reason, likes me, and he says that, we haven't had any issues with you in 6 years, which is true, outside of some licensing issues at the early part of it. But that wasn't even really an issue. That was just like hey, you need to get a license. Okay. They haven't had problems with Xcite. But we're a company that has gotten bigger, better talent, bigger crowds, whatever, who's thinking man, is it worth running? Because it's not worth running in New York where we can't. We can't. So I don't know. I don't want that to come off whiny. This was supposed to be a very positive thing, but this is what we've been dealing with, where I was going into this show not really stressed out, and now I'm instantly stressed out, but not about this show, but about all the shows going forward.
I don't think it's whiny at all, Moose. I think you're just venting, man. You're just a guy trying to make a buck here who's trying to put on good shows. I mean, this is just truth, man.
And it's a side of the business that the casual fan might not get to see or have no idea about.
Right. So that's it. I don't, I think I'm done. I think I've gotten all the stuff I can expose out that I can expose.
You got that? You got that off your chest?
Honestly,
You feeling better?
No, but it's good to be able to say it. So at least if someone's listening to this and they just think, oh, we just drop. I always said I want to just drop a ring, put on a show. That's what I want to do. But that's not what it is anymore. And unfortunately, it's just harder and harder to deal with this stuff.
Get in touch with your local politician and tell them you want Xcite Wrestling in your town.
Absolutely.
Yes. But listen, guys, I'm sitting at the Legion. My wife just called me 8 times, and I have to build a set. I probably should go, or I'm going to get murdered by the guys that are trying to build a set without me here.
No problem. Hey, Moose, we appreciate you calling in. We appreciate what you're doing for Xcite in the local area. Folks, we cannot stress this enough. If you are not going to the Legion on Sunday, you better have a good reason, because Moose has already told you how to get tickets. You can watch on Twitch, but you should be also seeing how you can get to it at Xcite Show, because seeing it live in person is a whole lot different than watching on your screen. So you better be making plans to get down there. Sunday, April 29th, American Legion Post 80, Binghamton, New York. Google it if you need to find out how to get there. And June 2nd, Nice Egg Stadium, you can watch wrestling and a baseball game. Go outside for $22 for a ticket.
Two of my favorite things.
You see both.
And Team Tebow.
Exactly.
Yes.
Where can you go wrong with this? You can't. Moose, like I said, we appreciate you coming on the show. Anything we can do to help you out, you let us know.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right. Jonny Moose, everybody. We're going to take a quick break, wrap the show up. You're listening to the ODPH.
Hi, this is Mike C. from I Am Horror. You're listening to the ODPH, the most killer podcast on the planet.
Coming back to close out this special edition of the ODPH Entertainment Edition, the Pro Wrestling Recap. Working title, but still quality nevertheless. This week, the WWE is overseas, and they're doing the quote-unquote greatest Royal Rumble ever.
Yep, their billing, not ours.
So, Pat, why don't you break down what's going on this weekend?
So, of course, you have the greatest Royal Rumble, which starts at 12 p.m. this Friday, April 27th on the WWE Network. Of course, it will feature, I believe it's 7 titles being defended?
I believe so.
7 titles defended, including the largest Royal Rumble match ever in 50 men. Of course, announced entrants as of Tuesday afternoon are Daniel Bryan, Chris Jericho, Braun Strowman, Kurt Angle, The Big Show, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Shane McMahon, Big E, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, Shelton Benjamin, Dolph Ziggler, Bobby Roode, Baron Corbin, Sin Cara, Chad Gable, Elias, Goldust, Mojo Rawley, Apollo Crews, and Titus O'Neil. Now, you also have some stars being featured in promotional material, but they haven't been announced for a match. Ergo, I'm betting they're going to be in the Royal Rumble. Randy Orton, Mark Henry, Rey Mysterio, Big Cass, The Revival, Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel, Kalisto, Bobby Lashley, The Great Khali, Fandango and Tyler Breeze, Rhino and Heath Slater, Carl Anderson, and Luke Gallows. And I'm sure there's going to be some more surprise entrants that you would have never thought you'd have saw there.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be something just to see. I mean,
for
50 guys at least, because, I mean, let alone know what's going to happen. Cards is always subject to change.
Right. I mean, you look at what happened this past Monday where Zack Ryder was supposed to be going overseas for this, but he injured himself in a taping of a Main Event. Luckily for him, though, it came out as we were recording. It's just a strain. It's not a tear, so he should be back fairly soon.
So, that being said, Pat, I'm going to pass this around the panel, starting with Pat first. What is your favorite Royal Rumble moment or match?
So for me, I'd have to go with moment. I think it's the one we had, not this most recent Royal Rumble, but the one the year prior where it had Undertaker, Goldberg, and Lesnar entering the Royal Rumble. And you had that moment where Lesnar came in, wrecked shop, Goldberg came in, eliminated Lesnar, and then Undertaker came in. It was like a spot or two after him, and you had Undertaker and Goldberg in the ring together, which is something I never thought I would have seen.
No, that was definitely just a weird, iconic moment because that's so many different, legendary wrestlers.
I'll say it was two of the biggest guys for their respective companies back in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, that was just a nostalgia trip. It was surreal watching because, Goldberg being in the WWE was always kind of weird for me watching.
Right.
And then let alone how he went, and then, albeit the Goldberg-Lesnar farewell match from WrestleMania, we don't even need to discuss. But watching the Taker and Goldberg in the ring at the same time was surreal.
Yeah, like I know they had that moment on, it was the end of one of the Monday Night Raws before the Rumble. It might have been the Go Home show before the Rumble where it was the Lesnar, Goldberg, and Taker in the ring together, which was a moment in and of itself because they didn't do anything. They didn't have to. Goldberg and Lesnar just stared down at each other, and you heard the familiar gong hit. The lights went out, and Undertaker standing there. And you just hear Michael Cole go, "The dead man," and they just stood there because you didn't need to do anything else.
Yeah, it was just one of those moments that you just always remember.
Yeah.
Coach, what you got?
So I got two things that are kind of sticking out to me. One was Shawn Michaels winning the 96 Royal Rumble there, going on to win his first world title in Anaheim against Bret Hart.
That was the Davey Boy Rumble, right?
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Hands down, big HBK fan, so being able to, see him go on to win the title was awesome. I still remember that WrestleMania and the Iron Man match. And then the other one is the 2010 CM Punk in the ring cutting the promo as he's eliminating dudes, doing the Straight Edge Society gimmick. Absolutely hilarious. You'd never seen it before. Something that was fresh and new and, exciting as he's, eliminating these guys. He's preaching to them, becoming members of the Straight Edge Society. That's just different stuff, man. And that's what you got to do with the Rumble to keep it fresh, And I had a lot of fun with those.
Absolutely. I have to agree 100%. CM Punk doing the Straight Edge Society, that is my favorite Royal Rumble moment, too. Just at that time, nobody was touching him on the mic. Very few people have even gotten close to his mic work.
Oh, for sure.
But let alone, he fully went all in on that character, and just after he's eliminating everybody, grabbing the mic and just cutting promos, no matter who was coming in. And the moment when he got eliminated from the Rumble, you heard that place erupt.
Yeah, he could have probably gone from wherever he started it all the way to the end, probably still cutting a promo, and it still would have been gold. He could have been eliminated as number 29. It still would have been fresh.
Oh, yeah.
It was great.
Kev, what you got for yours?
Well, I'd have to go with the 92 Rumble, I would say, is one of my favorites, because what you had Ric Flair coming over from WCW, NWA, probably at the time. I believe it was, and winning his first title in the Rumble. Of course, now everything is, the winner gets their shot at WrestleMania, but for that Rumble, it was the winner got the WWE title, WWF at the time. And, you had a who's who in the Rumble, too. And, Hulk was still in there, and you had Savage, Taker, Sid, and, it was definitely... and Ric Flair, I believe, was in there for over an hour at the time. And for that was unheard of at that time. It was pretty cool seeing him win his first WWF title.
And he wasn't ducking out in the corner and rolling underneath the ropes. He was
Exactly.
working
he
that
was
entire hour.
active that entire match.
Exactly.
And I think what was cool, too, with that one is that it was the first Rumble that had a stipulation, because all the ones prior to that was just the winner. This was the first one that really started the trend of, now this is actually going to mean something, that gave it a big pay-per-view feel.
Yeah, because you had that first, I remember the first Rumble, and it was just on USA Network. It wasn't even pay-per-view. It was just...
Yeah, it was what it was, It was just a 30-man over the top, and then, it was cool to see, especially it being Flair, being the AWA guy, the WCW guy, and, having him come over to the WWE and then win it,
Absolutely.
I got to agree with you. For me, the greatest Royal Rumble match was Flair 92. Hands down. We always say Flair is the man. To beat the man, or to be the man, you got to beat the man. This is the one that this was like his moment for WWE, WWF that sticks out for me for the entire time he's been wrestling both companies. This is his moment in WWE that I don't think he's ever, grown further in that. The retirement match against Shawn Michaels is definitely up there too.
Pure.
Yeah, but this is one where if you didn't know who Ric Flair was because you weren't a WCW guy, you know who he was after that match, and you get why everybody was saying, like, at the time it was either Hogan or Flair.
You know, and this was the time too before the Money in the Bank. So it was like the Rumble winner was the guy, the next guy. You know, I mean, that Rumble winner pretty much, I mean, I don't know the percentage, but I would probably say it was about 90% was going to win that title, you know, minus the first Rumble that Shawn won where he lost to Diesel at WrestleMania. But 9 times out of 10, that guy was going on to be the guy. And now with the Money in the Bank, it's kind of been watered down a little bit. You know, obviously Roman lost the title a few years ago and, you know, after winning the Rumble. So it hasn't taken on the same, you know, the it guy. But, I mean, it's still a big deal.
Oh, yeah, because especially, I mean, if you can take a look at this year when Nakamura won. I mean, and you just were like, okay, where is he going to go? Mm-hmm. Is he going to go with Lesnar or is he going to go AJ Styles?
Yeah.
Which we all knew. I mean, if you've been following his career, you wanted to see the rematch, at least stateside.
Oh, for sure. God.
Yeah, because the New Japan, first time they fought AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, just find it however you can.
Oh, him and Brock, too?
Yeah.
Him and Brock have great matches, too, over there.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Moose talking about 2 guys punching each other in the face. Go see a Brock-Nakamura match in New Japan. Oh, my God.
Yeah, legendary. But to see it stateside, especially under WrestleMania, which you have to argue is the biggest, you know, wrestling show of all of them. Wrestle Kingdom in New Japan is up there, but I think WrestleMania does take it.
I say the biggest thing that probably disappoints me about this event is that it just doesn't mean anything. You know, it's just a 50-man over the top. I mean, give the winner something. You know, like put them in you know, just have it be the winner of this, whatever brand they're on, just goes on to face the champion at the next pay-per-view or whatever. You know, I mean, just do something with it, or on Raw the next night.
I'd be okay if they actually had the winner go to SummerSlam.
Okay,
yeah, something,
build,
you know?
Build it.
Because they've signed a 3-year contract for the show. Mm-hmm. So maybe next year it might not be a 50-man, but you know next year they're probably going to do a Rumble because they want to build the relationship up in Saudi Arabia. Obviously, it's got a little bit of money going on, so, you know, obviously they want to have that connection inside that country. So it's like, if you're going to put on the Rumble every year because you want the talent there, let's just do it. Let's give the champions, like let's give the winner of that something, you know?
Yeah, I mean, even if they did it and they had the winner go to Money in the Bank.
Whatever, you know?
Yeah, but do something, where there's at least some kind of payoff for it.
You could have literally had this guy, whoever won, go and face the champion of the brand that they're on Raw or SmackDown the next night and have an instant good match, you know, and an instant main event for your show coming back from Saudi Arabia, you know?
Yeah, and I think now, especially because they're really making a point to expand their international presence, I mean, it's a prime way to do it because if you're watching on the network, I mean, over here in the States, it's on at noon in the East.
Yep.
To start watching. And I mean, for that many fans to be really invested in it, I mean, it just goes to show you, like, this is going to mean something. And I do agree with you. I think there should be a payoff somewhere.
Something.
Instead of just getting a trophy and just kind of brushing off. Kind of like the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, because even that winner just gets the trophy, and you're mentioned for, like, what, a month, and then it goes away.
The Andre go to the bathroom break.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's say, with the exception of this year, who was, I believe, Matt Hardy won this year. I think it got mentioned the Raw after Mania, and didn't get mentioned this week.
Yeah, I mean,
he's certainly not carrying that trophy around.
No, it's not. It's one and done. I mean, and that's the unfortunate thing about it, because when you do like a battle royal or a big match like this, it should mean something.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't. Yeah, I mean, even if you did it like, okay, you're guaranteed an entry into Money in the Bank.
I mean, when Big John Studd did what they did back in that first WrestleMania, it was a big deal. I mean, they won. What was it, like $300 or something was the prize? Something silly like
crazy,
that, you know,
yeah.
something silly.
Or even to differentiate it from, say, the Royal Rumble or the Elimination Chamber or one of these other matches where if you win this match, you get a title shot. Have it so you win this match, you get a title shot of your choosing. So if you're a Raw guy, you can go for the Universal title, or you could also go for the IC title. Or if you're on SmackDown, you go for the WWE title or the US title, whichever you prefer, just to differentiate it from the constant, you know, oh, you win this match, automatic title shot.
It would be an interesting concept, especially if there's somebody like there's a belt away from the Grand Slam, championship. Then I could kind of see that.
Which, I mean, the Grand Slam championship really wasn't anything until, you know, Seth won it this year. I mean, nobody had made a big deal about it. I mean, Jeff Hardy just did it. Did they talk about it much? I mean,
Roman
very briefly.
Roman did it. Dean did it.
Right? No, I mean,
it feels like, and I know I've said this to a couple of people. It feels like anybody on the main roster who's close to getting it, they're like filling it in.
No, I know. I mean, I know they've done it before. Obviously, Shawn Michaels has done it. You know, like Jericho, like guys have done it, but like it's not really talked about. Like when they talk about Jericho, they don't say like, oh, he's a former Grand Slam champion. But then all of a sudden, like going into this IC match, it was like, Seth is one Intercontinental Championship away from being a Grand Slam champion, and now it's a big deal. It's like
I look at it as it's like a feather in the cap. It's like, whenever you're talking about a baseball player who's getting towards the end of their career, and this guy's a member of the 500 home run club. Oh, this guy's a member of the 3,000 hit club, the 3,000 strikeout club. Whatever club you want to talk about. Sure, it doesn't mean all that much. It's cool to look at. It's cool to say, but it's just a feather in the cap.
Yeah, I mean, probably the last person that really actually did it pure was Jericho, because he was the last one to win the Hardcore Championship. So
yeah, I mean, it all depends on your perspective and what you think makes it up. But no, I fully agree with you. And hopefully, like I said, this year's a good test run for it. So let's see what they do next year.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what it's like with 50 guys.
Yeah,
that's going to be wild.
That's going to be crazy.
It's an hour right now with 30. So get your popcorn ready.
Yeah, make sure you got your coffee.
Are they going to reduce the increments that they come in the ring to, or are they going to keep that the same? That's the thing too. Otherwise, it's going to be like a 2-hour match.
Yeah, that's going to be
I was say,
something.
if memory serves, they did the 40-man Royal Rumble. That was well over an hour.
Yeah, God, that was long.
Yeah, that was a marathon. To say,
and you got the 50-man plus 7 title defenses.
Yeah, so like we say, make sure that you take a good nap. You're ready to go.
A lot of wrestling ahead of you folks.
Don't forget, you can watch the network on more than just your game console or your whatever internet-connected devices. You can watch it on your phone, your tablet, your laptop, so you don't have to sit in one place. You can walk around the house, get some exercise in.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. No matter how you can watch it, make sure to watch it. Because, I mean, like you say, we all have Royal Rumble memories. I mean, like, for me, I agree. 92, that was the Rumble. Even 2016 when AJ Styles debuted.
Oh, my gosh.
That stands out because...
Fire.
Yeah,
that was a moment.
That was a
No
moment.
doubt.
So there's so many moments you can look at and just go, this is why the match means something. Even if it's not, really involved, quote-unquote, into storylines right now, it's still a match worth watching. So as you're watching this weekend, there's a ton of wrestling to watch. So make sure Friday, check out the Royal Rumble on the WWE Network, and especially Sunday, Xcite Wrestling on Twitch, or get down to the Legion if you're in town. You will not be disappointed.
Support local business.
Exactly. Support indie wrestling, support pro wrestling. So that's all we got for this week. So for Kevin Molson, Coach Duffy, Padawan J, I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you for listening to the ODPH Entertainment Edition, Pro Wrestling Edition. We'll see you next time.